well, they just brought in $4.5 million, so they probably have less money to spend than they did before. Are the Montreal Canadiens the team to give him that money? We heard news earlier this week that Max had switched agents. His agent, Pat Brisson, or former agent, good friends with Marc Bergevin, had been fired. New agent, Darren Ferris. Mitch Marner's agent.
Mitch Marner's agent. Now, this is very interesting. Because Max Domi is not going into these negotiations with what Mitch Marner had. He's 25. Marner, I believe, is 22. Domi was coming off a career year. Domi's career year is a year behind him. He went from 38 to 45 points to 72 to 44 in 71 games.
Doesn't have a great relationship with Claude Julien. We know that.
Apparently doesn't have a great relationship with Claude Julien. 10 playoff games, 3 assists. That's it. So he's not going in there with the same fire. And I do find it very funny that this was announced yesterday, and Marc Bergevin makes a deal to acquire over $4 million in cap space the very next day. Just eats it up. You know, the Blues, they free up the space, and what do we automatically think?
Pietrangelo.
They're about to fill that space with one of their key free agents. No one's really connected those dots with Montreal. Montreal's not going to be as tight, but I think Bergevin is sending a clear message based on their negotiations that I assume they've had so far. This is what we've got for you, Max. This is what we got for you. And if you look at his track record, and I started to go through this trade a minute ago, he'll move you. He doesn't care. He'll move you for value. Max Pacioretty, the writing was on the wall. And what did they get for him? Thomas Tatar, who was a total cap dump and turned into a significant player on their roster. Nick Suzuki, who at the time, former first-round pick and a prospect, and is now a significant part of their roster. And a second-round pick from 2019. We'll see how that goes. Actually, it looks like it was given to Columbus. So there was probably another move that was involved in there. Marc Bergevin. Oh, I should do a trade tree. God, this is why. God, they're so difficult to do, especially to do on the spot. Anyway, point being, Marc Bergevin is a fidgety boy. And he is not. As much as I made fun of it yesterday, and a lot of Leaf fans made fun of it yesterday, Darren Ferris, get used to that, Montreal Canadiens fans. It's going to be a fun conversation. No, it's not. Bergevin will just trade him. Either he'll take the money amount, he'll take the dollar amount, and then Darren Ferris will be like, yeah, well, he's going to go play in Zurich. And then Bergevin goes, all right, bet. And he'll deal him for what I assume will be a decent package, and he'll acquire value. And at the end of year evaluation, no matter what, he'll be able to say, we have more value than we did the year before. I don't know. I think that's a team that could, at this point, your prospects are already good. You have such a ridiculous amount of picks. I think it's time for Marc Bergevin to. Well, I want to see what he can do with it.
I was thinking about that, and I wondered if Max Domi doesn't make a lot of sense in Edmonton. And the reason I say that is they're looking for a third-line center who's going to be relatively low cost. Now, obviously, you've got extremely expensive first two lines, but they're worth it. Max Domi's got bite to his game. He has scored 70 points. You can put him on the power play. He can play the wing on the power play, which would be important. He's a good skater. Obviously, can make some plays. And that's a guy that, I mean, I hesitate to say this because, it's always about Toronto, but is that not somewhat the type of player that the Leafs are looking for? Guy with a little bit of bite to the game?
It is.
But I think Edmonton's looking harder for that. I saw an article today that teams like Edmonton should be looking at guys like Kyle Turris with reduced salaries. Kyle Turris at $3 million, and it makes sense. But if Max is going to come in around $3 or $4 million, does he make sense in Edmonton?
It makes more sense in Edmonton than Toronto.
Toronto, yeah.
I think the Leafs, plus there's something about being Ty Domi's kid in Toronto. I don't know. I just feel like everyone will expect him to be Ty. The Oilers would have half the 2015 Team Canada team.
Yeah, they would, wouldn't they? Yeah.
McDavid, Domi. I think Darnell Nurse was on that team as well.
Yep.
Again, you talk about the Leafs with the snarl. They need defense 1,000 times more than they need that. I think they need to get the snarl on defense. That's where it needs to come from. The Oilers, on the other hand, again,
they've got snarl on defense in Edmonton.
They've got snarl on defense in Edmonton, but what we talk about, your identity can't just be a goalie, or it can't just be the two-headed monster. They were good this year because people contributed besides the two-headed monster. If you get Max Domi, add it to that group, all of a sudden, you're adding guys like Tyler Ennis and Andreas Athanasiou at the deadline, and yeah, those are deadline moves, and they shore up your depth, and they're good. I supported them. I thought they were good moves. Max Domi. Okay. All right, now we're talking. Because not only is Edmonton an improved offensive team, whether it's coming from the offense or it's in their zone, you're going to have a miserable time playing against the Oilers. Mm-hmm. They're going to beat you up, and you're going to be too tired to chase Connor McDavid around all night. Yeah. It's not going to be a good time. Could be a good fit. Again, the issue is money, but if they can find a way around it. Isn't it always? And
you have to wonder if a guy like Max Domi, who's an RFA this year, he signed a 1 or 2 year. I don't know how many years he's got left, because I know when he's 25 now. He's played 6 seasons, so it's your 7th season that you become a UFA, right?
7 or after, I think it's 26 in a certain amount of games.
After 26? So even if you could sell Max and Darren Ferris on a lower cost deal in Edmonton for a season.
For one season? Hey, that's an interesting idea.
Who doesn't want to play with Connor McDavid at least once?
Yeah, man. There's going to be some really weird one-year deals. We're going to see situations like some kids may be too young to remember this, but there was one off-season where the already pretty stacked Colorado Avalanche added Teemu Selanne and Paul Kariya for a combined $3 million or something stupid like that. Now, they didn't end up winning the cup, but damn, it was fun to watch. It made for a fun day.
Yeah.
It made for a fun day. And if it sounds like we're always dumping on the cap and we're talking about how the trade deadline's boring, I've gotten to work the last few trade deadlines. I don't think they really got boring for a while. I think the past couple, they've gotten better. But I loved skipping school and watching Keith Tkachuk get traded for 19 firsts.
Yeah.
It was the best. Oh, it was the best. I miss it. I don't remember where I was.
Well, we're going to see a lot of that this offseason, I think is where you're going. There's going to be some crazy stuff. So I think, to me, instantly, as soon as I heard Max Domi, potentially out in Montreal, it was the Montreal Gazette that was reporting this. Edmonton would be great. Edmonton would be really
up the road
great.
In Calgary would also make sense for Domi a bit if they could move some money around, because their top 2 centers are Monahan and Backlund, right? If you get somebody like Domi in there, you get a little more stable at center. You get a more bona fide center. Okay, this is the guy we're going to run with instead of those two. And they'd have to move money around, like I said, but it could definitely be a trade option.
I think you can afford it too if you're Montreal or if you're Calgary, because they're TJ Brody and Travis Hamonic are up. You've got Rasmus Anderson, who I think is ready to step up and step in a major role. He's my second favorite Rasmus in the league, by the way. But there's definitely Calgary makes a lot of sense too. It's weird how they mirror each other. Well, whenever we think, Edmonton, but what about Calgary too? A guy like Max Domi on a team where he doesn't have to be the star. Like Montreal, when they brought him in, they're like, you're the first line center now. You know what I mean? And it was sort of, and what they did to Jonathan Drouin too. I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, Jonathan Drouin's an interesting case because you have to wonder if Montreal is doing a full roster flip, which who knows what Mark Bergevin's thinking.
I never know.
Jonathan Drouin When he's on, he's great. When he's not, he disappears.
He's unnoticable.
Did he lose that trade with Sergachev? We were talking about trades Bergevin lost. Is that one?
Yes. Yeah. But that was years ago.
Still a trade lost. Yeah. I mean, I think Sergachev's awesome. And boy, could they.
No, he had a run where we were like, this guy's an idiot. And I think it's part of the reason. It's part of the reason we thought the Galchenyuk for Domi trade sucked so bad, because Bergevin had this run where we were just like, on paper, we're like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? There was the Drouin Sergachev one, and there was Subban and Weber, and if I'm not mistaken, it was in a pretty short period of time. And then he did that, and we're like, are you all right? Is this guy going to be okay? And he hasn't done much losing since.
Well,
not in the trade market anyway.
23rd in the league is not great.
Right. This is the dichotomy of Marc Bergevin.
The dichotomy of this season. 23rd in the league and in the first round of the playoffs.
And my biggest criticism of him year in, year out, like, I'll give him props on his deals and drafting well and always having picks. I'm always like, bro, you're the Montreal Canadiens. Spend your cap space. And here they are spending it on Jake Allen. And I'm like, I don't know. This trade might suck.